So when you think about a factory, right, you probably picture the machines, the noise, the assembly lines, all the stuff being made.
Physical output. Yeah.
Exactly. But there's this invisible web of rules that governs that whole space. It's
Mhm.
all designed to keep people safe.
All right.
And today we're doing a deep dive into what happens when that safety net fails. Specifically, we're looking at a single piece of law that acts like a legal tripwire when an accident in India goes from minor to, well, to a disaster. We've got a whole stack of sources here on Section 88 of India's Factories Act of 1948, and this law doesn't just suggest reporting accidents.
No, it demands it.
It demands it. It sets these really specific rules. So for you listening, this isn't just about legal jargon. It's about understanding the engine of accountability and prevention in a huge industrial economy.
And that's the absolute heart of it. Section 88 is the moment where the government is legally forced to get involved after something goes wrong. It's almost like it anticipates that a manager's first instinct might be damage control.
To keep it quiet.
Exactly, to keep it quiet. But the law says, no, you have a higher duty here. It's a structure designed specifically to stop serious incidents, especially fatalities, from just getting swept under the rug.
Okay, so if we're pulling on that thread, the whole thing hinges on these really clear tripwires. Let's untouch that. What exactly triggers this mandatory reporting?
Well, we have to start with who actually has to do the reporting.
Mm.
The law puts the responsibility squarely on the factory manager.
The manager, not the owner.
Not the owner, not a director, the manager. They are the person who is legally required to notify the authorities as soon as an incident hits a certain severity. And that's a very deliberate choice.
To put it on the person on the ground?
Precisely. The manager is running the day-to-day. They have the most immediate knowledge of what happened, who was involved, the conditions. The clock starts ticking the moment they find out.
So what starts that clock? What are those specific triggers?
There are three main categories defined in Section 88. The first one is the most obvious, any accident that causes a death.
Right, a fatality.
Any fatality is a non-negotiable immediate report. It triggers the absolute highest level of official scrutiny.
Okay, that's clear enough. But the second one, the one that defines a serious injury, that's where the law gets really, really specific. It isn't about, stitches or broken bones.
No, it uses this very operational definition. The second trigger is any bodily injury that prevents the injured person from working for a period of 48 hours or more.
48 hours, 2 full days. That's a fascinating line to draw. Why that specific number? It feels like it's just long enough to be serious, but maybe short enough that someone might try to game the system.
It's designed to be objective and actually quite hard to manipulate. If someone is back at work in, say, 47 hours, the law considers it a minor issue.
Okay.
But 48 hours implies something substantial. It suggests hospitalization, serious trauma, and incapacity that needs real recovery time. The idea is to capture injuries that are serious enough to signal a potential systemic safety failure, not just a small mishap.
So a manager trying to hide an injury that keeps someone out for more than 2 days is now actively breaking the law.
Yes, and it's a very clear line to cross. So that benchmark forces transparency. And then you mentioned the third category.
Right, the catch-all.
Yes, the third trigger covers other specified serious accidents. This is basically defined in rules set by the state government. It gives them flexibility.
So they can adapt it.
They can adapt it. If a new dangerous chemical process is introduced or a certain type of near-miss like an explosion that didn't hurt anyone but could have, they can legally classify that as a reportable event. It keeps the law current.
Okay, so we have the triggers, death, the 48-hour incapacity rule, or a specified event. The manager has to report it. But the how matters just as much, right? It has to be in a prescribed format within a prescribed time frame.
That procedural detail is the backbone of the whole system. The standard format means authorities get the same data points every single time: who, what, when, where.
So they can spot patterns.
They can spot patterns immediately. It standardizes the information, speeds up the analysis, and most importantly, it gets the system ready for the next mandatory step.
And that next step is really where Section 88 gets its teeth. Because a report isn't the end of the story, it's just the beginning. What happens once that form lands on an inspector's desk?
That form kicks off a mandatory official response. This is where the law moves from just asking for a report to demanding accountability. The authorities can't just file it away.
They have to act.
They have to act. The report is directly tied to a required investigation.
So let's take the worst case scenario again, a fatality. When that notice comes in, the inspector can't just put it on a to-do list, can they?
Absolutely not. For a fatal accident, the law says the notified authority must start an inquiry, or they have to direct an inspector to do it. The sources we looked at really stress that this is non-discretionary.
So no wiggle room.
Zero wiggle room. They can't say they're too busy or it's too complex. A death automatically equals a mandated official inquiry.
That word must completely changes the power dynamic. It forces the state to act. And the law doesn't just say they have to investigate, it puts a clock on it, a very aggressive clock.
This is maybe the most critical detail for ensuring urgency. The law states the investigation must be initiated within 1 month of the authority getting that notice.
1 month, just 30 days to launch a formal investigation into someone's death. That seems incredibly fast, especially with the scale of industry we're talking about.
The pressure is immense, and it's completely intentional. That deadline is there to prevent things from going cold.
Right, evidence disappears.
Evidence degrades, witnesses forget things, the machine involved gets moved or fixed. By forcing them to act within a month, the law makes them secure the site and gather evidence while it's all still fresh. It's a powerful check against bureaucracy.
But does that kind of urgency risk a shallow investigation? If you have to hit that 1 month start date, do you just look for the easy answer, like operator error, instead of the deeper systemic problems?
That's a real tension, for sure. But the deadline is for the initiation of the inquiry, not its completion. The goal is to lock down the evidence immediately. A late start almost guarantees you'll never find the root cause. So while it creates pressure, its main job is to protect the integrity of the fact-finding right from the beginning.
Okay.
And this brings us to another layer here. Who makes the rules for the investigation itself? The Central Factories Act sets the big requirements, the what and the when. But it's the state government that has the power to define the how, the specific procedures for the inquiry.
Why do that? Why not have one national standard for the investigation?
Because industry is so different across a country like India,
Yeah,
the safety issues in a textile mill are completely different from an oil refinery.
sure.
So giving the states that power lets them tailor the rules to their local industries, their resources, and their own regulatory practices. It keeps the investigation relevant.
So we've got the mechanics down, the manager reports, that 48-hour rule, the 1 month inquiry deadline. But if we pull back, the whole spirit of Section 88 is aiming for something much bigger than just paperwork, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the difference between just assigning blame and actually creating knowledge. The whole thing is driven by really 3 connected goals,
Yeah.
all aimed at long-term improvement, not just punishment.
And the first one is just getting the information out there.
Purpose number 1 is just that, prompt reporting, to stop cover-ups. The law tries to kill the incentive for a manager to just, make a private deal with an injured worker to keep the government out of it.
It forces the failure into the open,
It forces it into the open immediately. And that directly enables the second problem.
which is figuring out what really happened.
Exactly. To investigate the true factual causes of the accident. Was it bad equipment? A loophole in the procedure? Were safety guards being bypassed to speed up production? It's about forensic truth-finding.
And then all that information, all that truth-finding, becomes the raw material for the third and, I guess, most important purpose.
Yes. Purpose number 3 is using that knowledge to prevent the same thing from happening again. It's a feedback loop.
Ah,
Every serious accident, because of Section 88, becomes a data point. If inquiries keep showing that one type of machine guard is failing in different factories, the government can see that trend and mandate a statewide or even a national change to safety standards.
so the law itself mandates the creation of knowledge that saves lives later. The whole system reporting, investigating within a month, it's really a knowledge generation machine.
It is. It transforms a personal tragedy into a technical lesson. Without Section 88, an accident might just be a sad, isolated event. With it, that same incident becomes public data that can improve the safety of the entire system.
So to recap this deep dive for you, Section 88 is this dynamic system. It forces factory managers to report accidents causing death or serious injury defined by that critical 48-hour work stoppage. And that report triggers a required official inquiry that, for fatalities, has to launch within a super tight 1-month window.
And that whole framework is a clear statement that doing nothing is not an option. By making the inquiry mandatory and tying it to the manager's duty to report, the law forces every serious accident to become a lesson for prevention. It fundamentally changes what accountability looks like.
And that structure leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to chew on. If the whole point of Section 88 is prevention through quick, informed action, and the government has just 1 month to get its investigation started, what single piece of information in that prescribed format do you think is the most critical? What piece of data turns a simple report into an immediate, actionable lead for an investigator racing against the clock?